So, I don't even know how to start this, but maybe the best way is just to rip the Band-Aid off. Last year, my life looked perfect on paper. Good job, decent salary, a wife I thought loved me, and friends I believed had my back. I was one of those guys who always thought, yeah, life hits hard sometimes, but it won't be me. I'm careful. I'm loyal. I work hard. Then everything collapsed in one single day. It started out like any other Tuesday. I went for a run in the morning, made my protein shake, kissed my wife on the cheek, and headed to work. No warning signs. Nothing unusual. Just a normal day. Around lunchtime, I got a message from a coworker who I barely talked to. He sent me a screenshot. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. Then it hit me like a brick to the face. It was my wife. Her name. Her photo. In a conversation thread I wasn't supposed to see. I couldn't breathe. The texts were between her and my best friend. My actual best friend. The guy who was the best man at my wedding. I swear my hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped my phone. At first, I told myself, this can't be real. Maybe it's photoshopped. Maybe it's a sick joke. But the words, the way she wrote to him, that was her. I knew her texting style like I knew the sound of my own heartbeat. And there it was. Proof that everything I thought was solid in my life was built on lies. I remember just sitting in my office chair, staring at the screen, while people around me were laughing, eating sandwiches, planning their weekends. Meanwhile, my entire reality was melting under me. That was the first moment I realized. Betrayal doesn't always come with a warning. Sometimes it sneaks in quietly, and the explosion happens when you least expect it. I wish I could erase those screenshots from my brain, but they're burned in there forever. The messages weren't even subtle. They weren't some vague, how are you, kind of thing. They were disgusting. Personal. The kind of words that cut so deep you feel sick just reading them. He called her baby. She called him my escape. My escape. Like I was a prison she had to get away from. The part that gutted me the most. They weren't just hooking up behind my back. They were laughing about me. I read one line where he joked about my running habit, how I probably run to escape my boring life, and she replied with, haha, he runs in circles while I'm having fun with you. I swear to God, my chest physically hurt when I read that. Like my heart had been punched straight through. I sat there in my office pretending to work, but all I could hear in my head was their laughter. My best friend. My wife. Two people I trusted more than anyone else. And the worst part? This wasn't new. The screenshots went back months. Months. Birthdays, holidays, nights where I thought she was working late or he was out with other friends. Every single memory started to feel like it had a second, darker meaning. That's when the anger hit. I felt my body shaking, and for the first time in years, I wanted to hit something. I wanted to smash my phone, flip my desk, scream at the world. Instead, I walked into the bathroom, locked the door, and just stared at myself in the mirror. My face looked different, like I was already a stranger to myself. In that moment, one thought looped in my head. What the hell do I do now? I don't even remember the drive home that evening. It's like my brain switched to autopilot. All I knew was that I couldn't sit on this. I couldn't fake a smile and wait for the right time to talk. There was no right time. When I walked through the door, she was in the kitchen making pasta like nothing was wrong. The smell of garlic hit me, and for a second, I almost convinced myself I had imagined the whole thing. That maybe I'd overreacted. But then I looked at her, really looked at her, and all I could see was the woman in those messages. The smirk in her texts. The lies. I didn't play games. I just pulled out my phone, dropped it on the counter in front of her, and said, "Explain this." Her face drained of color instantly. She didn't even try to act confused. She didn't say, "What is this?" or "That's not me." Nope. She just froze, like a deer in headlights, and whispered, "Where did you get that?" That was it. Confirmation. I felt like I was vibrating with rage, but my voice came out calm. Too calm. "You've been sleeping with him? My best friend? For how long?" She started crying immediately. Real tears, shaking shoulders, the whole thing. She kept repeating, "It's not what you think. I swear, I didn't mean to hurt you." But she never actually denied it. I asked again, louder this time. "How long?" Finally, she broke. "Since last summer." That's when something in me snapped. Last summer? That meant our anniversary trip. That meant my birthday. That meant all those nights I thought we were happy. I couldn't even look at her. I grabbed my jacket, stormed out of the house, and just walked aimlessly through the neighborhood in the dark. I didn't care where I was going. I just knew I couldn't breathe in the same space as her. And the whole time, one thought kept hammering in my brain. And what about him? What do I do about him? When I left the house that night, I didn't even realize where my feet were taking me. But by the time I looked up, I was 2 blocks away, standing outside his apartment building. I can't explain the rage I felt in that moment. My hands were fists, my throat was dry, and my vision was tunneling. This was the guy who had been like a brother to me since high school. We'd shared dorm rooms, celebrated each other's wins, stood at each other's parents' funerals. And now? Now he was the enemy. I rang his buzzer. No hesitation. When he answered, his voice came through the speaker like nothing was wrong. Yo, what's up, man? I didn't say a word. Just waited. Eventually, he buzzed me in. The second he opened his door and saw me standing there, his whole body tensed. He knew. ING knew why I was there. I didn't give him a chance to speak. I shoved my phone in his face, the same screenshots, and asked, "How could you do this to me?" He stammered. He actually laughed nervously like it was some kind of misunderstanding. Bro, listen, it wasn't like that. I lost it. I shoved him back against the wall so hard a picture frame rattled. I'm not proud of it, but in that moment, all the years of trust, loyalty, and brotherhood went up in flames. You were in my house. You toasted at my wedding. You hugged me like a brother while you were sleeping with my wife behind my back. My voice cracked. I wasn't just angry, I was hurt. More hurt than I'd ever been in my life. And you know what he said? This coward actually whispered. She came onto me first. Like that was supposed to make me feel better. Like betrayal hurts less when someone else starts it. I stood there, staring at him, shaking. I wanted to hit him so badly my fists hurt. But instead, I just said, "We're done. You're dead to me." Then I walked out. My legs felt like they were made of lead, but I forced myself down those stairs and into the cold night air. For the first time in my life, I realized, sometimes the people you take a bullet for are the ones holding the gun. When I finally left his apartment, I felt hollow. Not angry anymore, just empty. Like someone had scooped out everything inside me and left a shell walking down the street. By the time I got back home, it was close to midnight. The lights were still on. She was waiting for me, sitting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket like she was the one who had been betrayed. Her face was blotchy from crying, eyes red. The second I stepped in, she jumped up and rushed toward me. "Please, can we just talk?" I put my hand up. "Don't." My voice cracked, but I held the line. "You don't get to beg me now. You had months to think about what you were doing." She started babbling excuses. "It wasn't planned. I was lonely. You were always working. I didn't mean for it to happen." That was the dagger right there. She tried to spin it like it was my fault. Like me working my ass off to give us a better life somehow opened the door for her betrayal. I told her straight, "Don't you dare put this on me. I gave you everything I had. Every ounce of loyalty, every bit of love. And you threw it away for him." She collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. I didn't feel sorry for her. Not then. Not anymore. I grabbed a pillow and a blanket from the hall closet and said, "I'll sleep in the guest room. Tomorrow, we figure out what happens next." I'll be honest, I barely slept that night. My brain replayed everything over and over. The messages, the lies, the way they laughed at me. I stared at the ceiling until sunrise, my chest heavy with a mix of sadness and fury. That was the night I realized this wasn't just about betrayal. It was about respect, and I had lost mine. When the sun came up, I felt like I hadn't slept in a year. My eyes were burning, my body heavy, but my mind was racing like a car with no brakes. I walked into the kitchen, and there she was again, making coffee like it was just another Wednesday. She looked up at me with this fragile, hopeful smile, like maybe everything could go back to normal if she just pretended hard enough. I couldn't stomach it. I poured myself water and sat at the table. No small talk. No good morning. I went straight to it. "We're done. I want a divorce." Her mug slipped in her hand, almost shattered. She started begging again, her words tumbling over each other. "Please, it was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. I'll cut him off. We can go to therapy. But the thing is, once you've seen betrayal with your own eyes, there's no unseeing it. I couldn't erase those messages. I couldn't erase the sound of his voice saying, "She came on to me first." I couldn't erase how small and pathetic I felt reading about them laughing at me behind my back. I told her, "You didn't just cheat on me. You destroyed the version of me that trusted you. And that guy? He's not coming back." For the first time, she didn't cry. She just sat there silent, staring at the table. I think she realized it was really over. That morning, I packed a bag, just enough clothes for a few days, and left. I didn't even know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't breathe under the same roof as her. I ended up at a cheap motel on the edge of town, the kind with buzzing neon lights and stale air. I sat on the bed staring at the ugly wallpaper, feeling like a stranger in my own life. And for the first time in years, I asked myself, who am I without her? Without him? Without the life I thought I had? The next morning, I dragged myself to work like a zombie. I hadn't shaved, my shirt was wrinkled, and I looked like hell, but I couldn't call in sick. Sitting alone in that motel room felt like drowning. At least at work, I thought maybe I could distract myself. Big mistake. The second I walked in, people could tell something was off. My coworker, yeah, the same guy who sent me the screenshots, pulled me aside and whispered, "Are you okay, man?" I wanted to tell him no, I'm not okay, my whole life just went up in flames. But instead I just said, "I'm fine." I wasn't fine. I opened my laptop and stared at my emails, but none of the words made sense. Every time I tried to focus, I saw their texts flashing in my head. The way she called him my escape. The way he joked about me. My hands actually shook on the keyboard. At one point, my boss came over to ask about a report, and I snapped at him, loud. Totally unlike me. The whole office went quiet. That's when I knew. I couldn't keep pretending. I went to the bathroom, locked the stall, and sat there for half an hour just trying to breathe. My chest felt heavy, like something was pressing down on it. And for the first time, I admitted it to myself. I was broken. On my lunch break, I didn't eat. I just drove aimlessly around the city, windows down, music off, thinking, do I quit my job too? Do I burn everything down and start over? Or do I try to rebuild from here, one brick at a time? By the time I got back to the office, I had made one small decision. I wasn't going to quit my job. Not yet. If everything else in my life was falling apart, at least work could be one place where I still had control. Or at least, that's what I told myself. I hadn't planned on telling my family yet. Honestly, I was embarrassed. I felt like I'd failed as a husband, as a man, even though deep down I knew I wasn't the one who broke the vows. But secrets don't stay secrets for long. It was my sister who found out first. She called me one night, out of the blue, just to check in. She said I sounded strange, asked if everything was okay. I tried to brush it off, but then she hit me with, "You're staying at a motel, aren't you?" That floored me. Turns out she'd driven past my house earlier that week, saw my car wasn't there, and knew something was up. That's sisters for you, annoyingly perceptive. So I told her. All of it. The texts, the affair, the confrontation. Every ugly detail spilled out of me like poison I'd been holding in too long. She was silent for a long time. Then she said, "You don't deserve this. None of this is on you. Don't let her make you think otherwise." And I lost it. I actually cried, like full on, shoulders shaking, couldn't catch my breath. I hadn't cried in years, but hearing someone finally say it out loud, that it wasn't my fault, it cracked me open. The next day, my parents knew. Then my cousins. Then everyone. It spread through the family like wildfire. And the reactions were mixed. Some wanted me to cut her off instantly. Others told me to be a man and forgive. My mom even suggested therapy for both of us. But the one thing that stuck with me was what my dad said. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Son, if someone shows you they don't value you, believe them the first time. Don't waste your life trying to convince them you're worthy." That sentence hit harder than anything. About a week after I'd left, she showed up at the motel. I don't even know how she found out where I was staying. But there she was, standing in the parking lot holding a bag of my clothes. I thought she was just dropping them off. But no, she wanted to talk. She followed me up to the room, sat on the edge of the bed, and launched into this whole speech about how she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. She said she'd cut him off completely, that she'd blocked his number, deleted his socials, everything. She begged for another chance. Then she pulled out this photo album, our wedding album. I hadn't seen it in years. She flipped it open to a picture of us smiling at the altar, looking so damn happy, and said, "We can still have this. We can start over." And for a moment, I'll admit it, my chest tightened. That picture, those memories, they weren't fake. We had something real once. Part of me wanted to believe we could go back. But then I remembered the messages. Her calling him my escape. Them laughing at me. My so-called best friend whispering. She came onto me first. That wasn't just a mistake. That was a choice. Over and over again. I closed the album and slid it back to her. You killed that version of us. It's gone. You don't get to rewrite history just because you regret it now. She broke down, sobbing harder than I'd ever seen. Tried to grab my hand, but I pulled away. I told her I was filing for divorce, and that was final. The last thing she said before walking out. You'll regret this. Funny thing is, that was the moment I knew I wouldn't. Filing for divorce felt surreal. I never imagined I'd be the guy sitting in a lawyer's office, signing papers to end the marriage I once thought would last forever. The attorney asked me 100 questions, assets, accounts, property, and I just kept thinking, how did I get here? At first, it seemed straightforward. We didn't have kids, which made it easier, at least legally. But then came the twist. Turns out, she'd already been talking to a lawyer before I even found out about the affair. Yeah, while I was running around like a fool trying to keep our lives stable, she was preparing her exit strategy, just in case things blew up. That realization knocked the wind out of me. She hadn't just betrayed me emotionally. She'd been planning for the fallout, like she knew it was only a matter of time before her lies came to light. And then the second twist hit. She wanted the house. The house I'd bought before we even got married. Her lawyer argued that since she contributed to the upkeep and improvements, she had a right to it. I was floored. Not only had she cheated, not only had she laughed at me with my best friend, but now she wanted to take the one place that still felt like mine. That's when the anger I thought had burned out came roaring back. I told my lawyer, fight for everything. She doesn't get to win after what she's done. It turned into a messy battle. Weeks of back and forth, thousands of dollars in legal fees, sleepless nights staring at motel ceilings. But I refused to roll over. In the end, I kept the house. She got some savings and furniture, but the place that held all our memories, both good and poisoned, was mine. And weirdly, that victory felt hollow. Because walking through those rooms alone, I didn't see a win. I saw ghosts. After the divorce was finalized, I thought the hardest part would be the paperwork, the confrontation, the legal battles. Turns out, it was the silence. Walking into a house that used to be full of laughter and memories, and now hearing only my own footsteps, was brutal. I didn't know where to start. Friends tried to help, but most of them didn't really know what to say. Work kept me busy, but even there, the nagging feeling of emptiness followed me like a shadow. I decided to start small. I bought a new coffee maker. Stupid, I know, but making myself a proper cup in the morning became a little ritual. I went for longer runs than before, not just for fitness, but to clear my head. I even started journaling, scribbling out every angry, sad, confused, or bitter thought I had. It felt like clawing my way out of a deep, dark hole. And slowly, I began noticing things I hadn't in years. The sun hitting the living room in the morning, the smell of rain, the way my dog wagged its tail like nothing else mattered. Those little things reminded me that life existed outside of betrayal, heartbreak, and anger. I also started reconnecting with old friends, real ones, the ones who never judged, never lied. They reminded me of who I was before all this mess. It wasn't overnight. Some days, I'd sit on the couch and feel the weight of everything again. But other days, I felt lighter, stronger, like I was slowly reclaiming my life, one piece at a time. About 2 months after the divorce, something unexpected happened. I was at work, trudging through my usual tasks, still feeling the weight of the past months, when my boss called me into his office. "Listen," he said, leaning back in his chair. "I've noticed how you've been handling yourself lately, and honestly, I'm impressed. I want to offer you a promotion. A big one. More responsibility, more pay, more control over projects. At first, I laughed. Not the good kind of laugh, the bitter kind. Are you serious? After everything that's happened, you think I can take on more? He smiled. Exactly because of everything. You've shown resilience, focus, and determination under pressure. Those qualities don't go unnoticed. I didn't expect it, and honestly, taking that promotion didn't fix everything. It didn't erase the betrayal, the heartbreak, or the nights I cried into my pillow. But it gave me purpose. It gave me a reason to get out of bed and fight for myself. And the funny thing? The harder I worked, the less power the past had over me. I couldn't change what happened, but I could change what came next. For the first time in months, I felt like I might actually be okay. It took months, but slowly, I started piecing myself back together. And along the way, I learned some painful but necessary lessons. First, trust is fragile. Not just the trust you place in others, but the trust you place in yourself. I realized I had spent years believing that loyalty and love were guarantees. They're not. People can disappoint you, betray you, and even laugh at your pain. But that doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. Second, self-worth can't come from someone else. For a long time, I tied my value to her, to his opinion, to how the world saw me. After all the betrayal, I had nothing left to cling to except myself. Rebuilding my confidence meant finding value in my own actions, my own choices, my own growth. And third, pain can be a teacher. I'm not saying I wanted this, or that it was fair. But the heartbreak, the anger, the sleepless nights, they forced me to see what I was made of. They pushed me to make decisions I wouldn't have made otherwise, to work harder, to love myself harder. I started setting boundaries with people who didn't respect me, stopped over-apologizing for things that weren't my fault, and learned to say no without guilt. Those little changes added up to a new me, stronger, smarter, and far less willing to tolerate betrayal. Most importantly, I learned that while you can't control other people, you can control how you respond, and that choice determines whether you remain a victim or become a survivor. Closure didn't come from a dramatic confrontation or a heart-to-heart with her. It didn't come from winning the divorce or proving everyone else wrong. It came quietly, unexpectedly, one ordinary afternoon. I was sitting in my favorite coffee shop, notebook open, scribbling down plans for a new project at work. The sun was streaming through the windows. People were chatting and laughing around me. And for the first time in months, I felt calm. And then I realized something. I didn't hate her anymore. Not really. I wasn't thinking about him either. The anger had faded, replaced by something lighter, a strange sense of relief. I'd survived. I'd rebuilt. And more importantly, I had chosen myself over bitterness. That's when it hit me. Closure isn't about getting back at someone or having all the answers. It's about deciding you're done letting the past control your life. You move forward, even if the memories linger. You forgive, not for them, but for yourself. I paid my tab, stepped outside, and felt the sun on my face. The world hadn't changed, but I had, and that made all the difference. For the first time in what felt like forever, I could breathe. I could imagine a future that didn't revolve around betrayal, pain, or anger. Looking back now, it feels almost surreal, the way one day of betrayal can unravel your whole world. But surviving it, rebuilding, and reclaiming yourself, that's the part that truly defines you. Here's what I learned, and what I'd tell anyone going through something similar. Feel everything, but don't get stuck there. Anger, sadness, heartbreak, they're natural. Let yourself experience them fully, then start taking steps to move forward. Trust yourself first. Other people's actions don't define your worth. You are not broken because someone else chose to betray you. Set boundaries and protect your energy. Betrayal often comes from people you let in too close. Learn to say no, to walk away, and to prioritize yourself. Small steps matter. Rebuilding isn't instant. It's the morning coffee, the long run, the call to a friend, the quiet realization that life is still happening, and you're still here to live it. Closure comes from within. You don't need an apology or an explanation to heal. The moment you stop letting the past dictate your present is the moment you truly regain control. I won't lie. Sometimes, late at night, I still remember their faces, their words, the betrayal. But now, those memories are just shadows of a past that taught me something invaluable: resilience, self-respect, and the power to start over. If you're reading this, and you're in the middle of heartbreak, betrayal, or loss, know this: you can survive. You can rebuild. And one day, you'll look back and realize that the pain didn't destroy you. It made you stronger. And honestly, that's the most empowering feeling in the world.